everyone, and welcome to today's tutorial with Joanne Mulligan. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Big Shot. We're going to learn how to use the embossing folders, framelits, and thinlits. I'm going to start today with the embossing folders. I'm going to use the Holly embossing folder. Before I get started with that, let me show you what comes in your kit. When you buy the Big Shot, you're going to get the Big Shot, which comes already assembled. All you have to do is put on the handle. There's a little Allen wrench that comes with it, and you just have to screw the handle on. Very simple to do. You will get a platform. This is the older version. I don't have the new platform. Stampin' Up! Released a new platform this past year in the new 2016-2017 annual catalog. I do not have that one yet, but I am going to show you how to use the older version. Once I get the new platform, I'll update the video and I'll have a little addition to it showing how to use that new platform. But for today, we're going to use the older one. You also get two standard cutting pads. They are now beveled on the edges. I have two sets. One I use for just embossing and one I use for cutting. And when I get to the cutting part, you'll see the difference immediately and why I have two different sets. So first off, with the older platform, you have to determine which you're going to be using because there's different tabs here. Today we're going to use the embossing. I'm starting out with the embossing. So that is tab number 1, and if you open it up, you'll see this is used for the textured impressions embossing folders. Tab number 2 is used for framelits and thinlits. So I'm going to open it up to tab number 1. That's my first step. Then I'm going to take my embossing folder and I'm going to open that up. I'm going to take a piece of Emerald Envy cardstock and I'm going to place that right inside and close it up. Now I'm going to make my sandwich. So I have my platform opened up to 1, which is for the textured impressions embossing folders. Then I'm going to put one of my standard cutting pads down. Then I put my embossing folder right on top of that, followed by another cutting pad. And that whole thing gets put into your Big Shot. Just give it a little push, and you're going to hold on to the handle and crank it on through. I am standing today, so if you see some shadows, that's me standing. I normally don't stand when I do videos. I'm normally sitting, but it's easier for me, I think, to run things through the Big Shot when I'm standing. I can get a good grip on it, and I can get some leverage and get that thing going right through. So when you take it out, there's your embossed cardstock. Now, I'm going to show you the new embossing folder that we came out with in the holiday catalog. This is called a dynamic folder. If you see, this is a lot thicker compared to the other one. I don't know if you can see the thickness. The dynamic folder is extremely thick as opposed to the regular embossing folders, which are a lot thinner. The difference is when you go to make your sandwich, you're not going to use a bottom pad. This makes up the difference because the thickness of this is about the thickness of a cutting pad. This also gets you really deeply etched. Now there's two ways you can do this. This is the cable knit embossing folder. I'll show you two different ways. One, I'm going to do it with dry. So I'm going to put, just like I did before, I'm going to put my cardstock in, close it up, no bottom pad, and I'm going to put another pad right over the top of that. That's my sandwich for this one. And then I'm going to run it right through the Big Shot. And there is this one. Now another way to get a really nice deeply embossed using the texture, I'm going to put my cardstock in. I'm going to take a spritzer and just, oops, would help if I had gone the right direction. Gently spritz it with a little bit of water. This will soften up the cardstock ever so slightly so you can get a really deep impression. Once again, it goes on platform number 1. My sandwich, I put the cutting pad on the top, and I'm going to crank it through the Big Shot. Out it comes, and now I have a little bit deeper emboss. I don't know if you can see it, it's still a little wet, but it's a lot deeper embossed. This has a very light embossing, and this is the texture shows up so much better when you spritz it ever so slightly. Just need to let it dry before you assemble your card, and it looks beautiful. Okay, now we're going to go on to a framelit. For that, I'm going to use the Jar of Love set. I'm going to show you how you cut out stamped images. I'm just going to ink up one of the jars from Jar of Love, and I'm going to stamp it on some Whisper. Whoops! Let's try that again. We'll flip it right over. There's always two sides to every paper. Stamp it right on there. Now, I am not going to use my standard cutting pad that comes with my Big Shot. For this one, I'm going to use the magnetic platform. Magnetic platform has a giant magnet in it. Makes it a lot easier when you're trying to line up your framelits. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my platform, then I'm going to put, see what I told you? This is one that I use for cutting. You can see how it's got all the little edges and grooves, and it looks pretty awful, but it works just fine. I'm going to put that right down. There we go. Then I'm going to put my cardstock down, and then when you're putting your framelits, there's two sides to it. A smooth side, and then this side has a little lip. That is what's going to cut. So see how it's sticking to the magnet? That way when it runs through the Big Shot, it doesn't move. So I am going to line this up right over my jar. Then I'm going to take my other cutting pad, and that goes right over it. And that's how you make your sandwich with this one. And this whole thing is going to get run through the Big Shot. Every once in a while you hear a little crack. That's fine. That's just the cutting pad. And I usually do it a couple times just to make sure I get a nice clean cut. And I'm going to take it out, and there's my jar. And that's how you use the framelits. Now, we're going to use a thinlit. The thinlits are very detailed. As you can see, this has a lot of detail, veins running through the leaves. So I want to use the precision plate. This is a precision base plate. This takes place of one of the standard cutting pads. As you can see, it has a written side that has a label on it, and then this side right here is metal. I did a class and people had it upside down, and I didn't realize it till they had already started using it. So you can see how it got all messed up. This side does not work. You'll want to use the hard metal side. So for this one, we're going to use our standard platform. Since I'm using a framelit or a thinlit, I'm going to use number 2. I put this right on the top. This is, like I said, is in place of the acrylic standard cutting pad. Place my cardstock down. Then I'm going to put my thinlit on the top. Then on top of that, to finish my sandwich, I put one of the standard cutting pads. Then I'm going to run it through. This one I usually do a few times just to make sure that you get a really nice cut, because this is so detailed. I'm going to take it out. And for this, I'm going to use the die brush and the foam pad. So I'm going to take that and lay it right into my box. I put it in a box lid so that the little shards of paper don't get all over the place. So here we are. There it is right there. And I'm just going to go over it using my brush and get all those little pieces right out. Okay. A couple little stubborn ones there. You can't get them all out. Whoops, that one's coming out. Let's try to keep going here. Sorry. Every once in a while. Then I can use, if this doesn't, you can't get them all out, you can use a paper piercer. And you can just pop those couple little stubborn ones right out. there's your, whoops, 2 more there, missed them. They pop right out, so they did go through nice. And there is your detailed leaf. So you just have to remember to make your sandwiches in the correct way. When you do get the Big Shot, it does come with instructions, so you can read those, and it does explain the different styles of framelits, thinlits, or if you're going to use the embossing folders, what cutting pad to use, or I'm sorry, what platform to use, how to assemble your sandwiches. That is the main thing, is to make sure that you pay attention. And if it starts to go through and you cannot get it to go through, back it up and make sure that you are doing it correctly. Because if you're using the platform and then you put your precision plate and you forget, and you put a standard cutting pad on top of that, and then you make your sandwich with this, it's not going to want to go through. It's going to get stuck. Do not force it, because you will break your Big Shot. Just before you run it through, make sure that everything is in the right order. And you're going to love your Big Shot as much as I am. Once you get this, I'm telling you, it will be your best tool in your toolbox. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. For a list of the products used, please click the link in the video description. Be sure to visit my website, stamptillyouDrop.com, for more inspiration and videos. I can also be found on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Thank you for watching, and happy stamping!